Good morning everybody and welcome to a new release announcement video for Maho 25.7. Let's go through all of the changes that we packed into our latest release, and I will read them all for you, and I'm also gonna try to show you some quick demos in order for you to understand everything that's going on in this release. Let's start with the big guy, which is that TinyMC, our what you see is what you get editor, has been replaced by Tiptap 3.0. Why this happened? A while ago, TinyMC decided to change their license from MIT to GPL. The problem is GPL is not compatible with the license that Maho is released with, meaning that we couldn't, not even if we wanted, update to the latest version of TinyMC. So there were multiple options, but we took the hard job of trying to understand what was the best possible tool in 2025 and also for the years ahead. So from our research, we dig a lot into all of the web, and we think Tiptap with its modern design and wonderful API, it's what it was needed for our project. So we rewrote all of the what you see is what you get implementations. We also wrote some new custom plugins, and we think the experience is gonna be great. It is very stable, but it's also a little bit stricter with the HTML it produces, meaning it's safer for the final rendering on the website, on your stores. And that for sure in the long run is gonna be great for everybody. I will show you a little bit what is the new interface. Let's try to edit, for example, like a CMS page. This is running on our demo servers that you can find and you can browse on demo.mahocommerce.com. Let's try to edit the homepage for our website. And this is the new interface, which looks familiar anyway. And you can already see we have a slideshow here, and there is a preview that shows that this is a slideshow and some other stuff. First of all, obviously, you can do the usual stuff, create texts, put them in bold, whatever. But what happens if we double click on a slideshow? A new interface opens and you can edit the slideshow. You can add images, for example, this one. You can set the alt text for the image, you can add the image, obviously you can remove them, whatever, and the preview updates with a new dot here showing that the new image is added. But what else? This is also new. When editing a widget, this didn't exist previously. You can double click on the widget and it's preloaded, and you can change what's been previously added, and it's very comfortable. And then you can obviously insert table, you can insert image, a single image, for example, or you also have variables. We're familiar with that. But this is a first step for us to build a full-fledged page builder. And since Tiptap API, it's amazing, it's very simple, I think we can get some really good news and really good future for future releases of Maho. So this is the first one in our release announcement, but let's go through all of them. We added a minimal layout for checkout. What's this? This is also enabled by default once you upgrade. Let's see, I already have one item in my cart here, and I also am previewing something that we're gonna take a look at it later. But if we check out, what we're gonna see is that you don't have the header, the navigation, and the footer. Obviously, you can disable this new feature, but I think most of the new website uses this layout, like they called it focused layout for checkout. And I think this is also a very good improvement for the checkout experience of your stores. You can disable if you want to keep the previews, the normal version of the checkout. Let's go to the next announcement, which is dynamic category. This is something big because it removes the need for quite some third-party modules that you're not gonna need anymore today. So let's see, let's go edit a category. If you go to the sale category, what you can find is that you have a dynamic category tab, and once you click it, you can decide if the category is dynamic or not, because maybe you want to set up the rules before enabling the feature. And once you enable the feature, what happens is, like, let's zoom a little bit, you have this very complex system of creating rules that decide what products become part of this category or not. Like, for example, what we added here is that if special price is greater than 0, meaning the product is actually on sale because it has a discount, automatically the product gets added to this category. So now what you can do is, for example, let's say you're used to the shop by brand experience, so you want to have some categories that are managed or divided by brand, manufacturer, for example. So what you can do is actually add a condition to the dynamic category rule, selecting the manufacturer, and then, you go from there. But what we find here, it's that there's no manufacturer attribute here, but this is why we're gonna take a look at that very quickly. If we go to the attribute management, we see that the use for promo rule condition is set to no. This attribute is used in a lot of places in our platform. We all know that. So let's set it to yes. And what we will see is that if we go back to the manage category, sale category, dynamic category tab, it's that manufacturer is now here, and you can go from there. This feature is absolutely crucial to be able to manage large catalogs. It automatically updates via cron, so everything will be taken care of for you automatically. Let's go to the next feature, which is payment restrictions. So many times what happens is, like, you wanna restrict some payment methods for some certain groups of customers or specific customers. So for example, you want to enable cash on delivery only for returning customers, or I don't know, whatever. If the subtotal is less than $100, euros, they cannot buy using some specific payment method. And it's very flexible. It uses the same condition building systems. It is under sales. It's here, payment restrictions. It's empty here in our demo, but obviously you can, let's, for example, decide, okay, check money order or cash on delivery. Where is it's this one. You can decide what website, what customer group, and then there are the condition, like, for example, subtotal is less than 100. So what happens here, if we save, if the subtotal of the order is less than 100, the cash on delivery method will not be available for that specific customer. Let's go to something that we saw just briefly earlier, which is a completely new navigation system for our website. Let's go back to the home page. So what we see, if we go to a category page, it's pretty much what we're used to, but if we go through a mobile view, like for example this way, it's gonna look a little bit different. So for example, if we press the hamburger menu, it opens in this off-canvas pattern, and it works the usual way, but these off-canvas elements are reused in order not to duplicate DOM elements, because that has to be avoided at all, for all our elements that need this kind of secondary navigation system. So for example, we can see obviously the first level menu is opening here, the cart is opening here, and it looks a little bit different from before, but also the layered navigations filters are open in a different way. This way, so much more useful in a mobile experience, but also the customer menu, this one. So let's not care about this error. They come from my extensions, so they're not related to our code. So this is pretty new, and I think it's gonna be pretty awesome for everybody. Let's go to the next topic. Let's go back to the admin with the admin log functionality, something that was present only in enterprise versions of, e-commerce platforms. And let's take a look at this. It's enabled by default, not in the complete version because it could be pretty hard on the database, but it locks two different kind of things. So modifications to the entities in your database and login activity. What happens is in the login activity, you don't see anything here because by default, only failed login are logged. Let's try to take a look at that. So for example, let's log in this way, and this should be logged as a failed attempt, but I have a passkey here set up. I'm logging with my passkey, which by the way, it's an awesome security feature. Let's go here to the login activity and we see that there was a fail attempt with all of the details. Now, apart from this amazing new feature, we have the activity log, which is already a bit full because I've done some tests in order to write the release notes. So for example, let's take a look at this save action on a CMS block. And what you can see is this amazing diff-like interface that's gonna show you precisely what's been changed on your data, So this is very useful for going back in time, understanding who did what, trying to recover something that's been lost. But some sensitive data may be present here. This is why everything that's stored in this, log table, it's encrypted. And you already know from the past version, we have a completely rewritten encryption system based on libsodium, super safe, super secure. This is an amazing new feature that I hope you will enjoy. Let's go to the next one. This is not that important now. If we take a look at this new element in the CMS section, we have media library. Obviously, before this release, we could see our file management interface only from within the rich text editor, more or less. Nowadays, you can come into the media library, you can create folders here, you can upload files, you can, delete files, whatever from here. This is, you may say, this is not extremely useful, but this is just a starting point. I wanted to have this feature as a starting point because more stuff will come into this page specifically because I want to bring into Maho a lot of new features to have a complete set of, file management features, maybe image editing, this kind of stuff, which is important for new platforms, platforms that live in 2025. So yeah, you can find it here, CMS Media Library. And then what else? Some stuff that I'm not gonna show you, but we're gonna read it through. Tier pricing support for configurable products. What happened before is that you may have had tier pricing only when a person was buying more of the same specific variant of a product. Meaning, like for example, if I wanted to buy 3 red XL t-shirts, I may have the tier prices, but the point is I want to buy more of those t-shirt, but in different variants. So like, for example, different sizes, and the tier prices should have been applied automatically. This is now the case. Finally, after many years, we fixed this lack of this feature for sure. Then we have an admin interface for managing country regions and their translations. For many years, we had to upload CSV files directly into the database. This is no longer the case. You can go through system, manage directory. You can, create new countries, edit all of the data of the countries, but also translate the name of the countries if you want for your multi-store project. But also, it's not only countries, it's also regions. So same thing, you can create a region. You can translate that region in all of the languages you may want from here. So, you know, if a store manager needs to quickly add a translation or a new region, you can do it from the admin and not having to call your developer. Let's go to the more technical side of things. We've completely rewritten the session management, meaning, you know, what happens when you log into the admin or when a customer logs into your website. It's no longer based on anything that was, you know, before Zend or, you know, Magento stuff. It's now based on Symfony HTTP Foundation. And what happens is, obviously it's much more maintained, secure, fast, whatever, but it also supports Redis out of the box. So you don't have to install third-party modules for that. This completes the set of migration that we also started with migrating cache system to Symfony. Again, because we have Redis support out of the box for that. So this whole migration is now complete. But also, we are on this journey of replacing Zend framework components with more modern ones. And you can read here, we replaced SOAP with Laminas. We replaced Zend JSON with native JSON encode and decode functions from PHP, but also the JSON APIs in Maho are now served via Laminas components instead. And same thing goes for Zend XML RPC. So all of these components are made optional. Meaning, because we didn't want to add more stuff to the dependencies for every project, because maybe your project doesn't use APIs at all, so you don't have to carry all of those dependencies on your server. But also, if you don't have those dependencies, those components, meaning the APIs, are automatically disabled, and you know, it's more safe for your store. Then, other technical side of things, PHP 8.3 is now the minimum version, so you have to update. You know, PHP 8.2 is still supported, but it's only for safety, for security updates. So we decided, okay, we have to move on now to 8.3, which is actively supported now. So, you know, all of our Docker images, which by the way are already updated on our, you know, hub.docker.com account, are already reflecting this change. So you may use 8.3 or 8.4 for Maho 25.7. Then we added a super important training/behavior management system. So before, if you had a product page that was ending with .html, you may have added a final slash and you were shown the same product. This was a problem for, you know, duplicated content in Google and search engines. This is no longer the case. Take a look at this PR to see all of the documentations about that. But we set what we think are good defaults, so you should be safe. Then we have also a quite interesting feature, which is defer JavaScript and load on intent. This may change the experience of your store, the front-end part, in a way that's probably interesting. Let's go through the configuration menu, and it should be under developer, JavaScript setting. We have obviously JavaScript deferrer mode, it's disabled by default, but we can have defer only. Let's try to enable it. And what we see on the website here, let's check the source code. All of the JavaScript, it's now at the end of the page, but, and this is the news here, and it works only, it's highly experimental, it's written here. Don't enable it if you use plugins that requires jQuery or Prototype.js, which is no longer part of Maho, but you know, if you add it, don't use this feature, which is the load on intent. Let's take a look at that because it's quite funny to use. So it's now enabled, and we are checking here how many JavaScripts are loaded. There are some of my extensions, Chrome extensions, so, take this with a grain of salt, but let's refresh. You see there are a lot less JavaScripts loaded, but when you try to interact with the pages, they get loaded. And we took extra care on making sure that wasn't jumping layout. So, layout shift is very important. So we managed to do that. And I think it may be very interesting for some website to use this feature. And we think it works pretty fine, but we decided to mark it as highly experimental anyway. So then what else? 2 column left is now default layout for all of the categories and everything, because nobody uses 3 columns layout anymore. It was time to let that one go. It's still present, but it's no longer the default. Then we added region support to SMTP if you're using Amazon SES or other providers that provide the region support. It's now possible to do that. We have very important single product reindexing capability. So if you need to reindex a single product because it's changed and you wanna bring it to online as soon as possible, you can do that now with Maho. More stuff. Important thing, we worked a lot for accessibility. We tried to test as much as possible with free tools that test accessibility status of the website, and our theme should be compliant with WCAG 2.2, which is now mandatory in some regions of the world. We couldn't get the proper certifications because it's a little bit expensive to do that, but you should be good to go. You have to check it, but we worked a lot with that. So yeah, I think we talked about the good thing. This is more minor stuff. The video is gonna become too long, but take a look at the release note in our blog or in our GitHub repository under the releases tag 25.7, and hit us up on Discord, here on GitHub. We need love. We want to spread Maho to a lot of e-commerce projects. We think it is really a good platform we can build on. So, if you want to become a sponsor or, just spread the word, thank you so much. I hope I will see you on our GitHub and, let's chat and have fun with e-commerce. I will see you soon with new updates on our wonderful e-commerce platform. So see you soon. Goodbye.